Aw, shit. Here we go again.
Welcome to the Sloppy Book Club podcast. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Celese. And we are on episode 2 of season 2.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry about last episode's little video mix-up. Hopefully this one works out. We're trying it. We'll get it together eventually, I swear.
Eventually. So what happened was we hit record, but it was on an audio timer, and we didn't know.
Auto timer.
Oh, I said audio timer.
Yeah, she did.
What the fuck? I haven't even had a sip yet. All right. Anyway, it was on an auto timer where it shut off after a certain amount of minutes.
Yeah.
So it didn't record our whole episode, but good thing we have our mics. So our mics were still recording. So our episode wasn't a total loss, but we just didn't have all the video for you guys, which kind of sucks because it was pretty funny. We were making faces and things like that. So it would have been nice to have it, but it is what it is. Again, this is a work in progress. We're trying our best. But yeah, so take 2.
Yeah.
Let's see if it doesn't turn off this time and it continues to record for us. But worst case scenario, you're getting the audio anyway. So not a total loss.
Yes. All right. So we're going to do a wine as usual. We have a little fantasy game.
This or that.
Yes. And then we're going to talk all about Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber.
And we mentioned this last week, or 2 weeks ago, sorry, that this was a book that we were excited to talk about. Book 2 is coming out later this month, so we're excited about that. But yeah, so before we even talk about that, let's do wine.
And we're actually sharing a wine for the first time. I don't think we've ever shared a drink, right?
No, I think I was pregnant the whole time. So yeah, I couldn't.
Yep. All right.
I was pregnant all of season 1.
Yes, you
up
were.
to it, and then.
So this one is Tattoo Girl. It's a white Riesling. I don't mind Rieslings. I
like them because they're on the sweeter side.
Yeah, we'll see. That's all it says on here. There's nothing else. So let's go for it.
Tattoo Girl.
Yeah, Tattoo Girl.
That's actually a really
pretty bottle.
Bottle, yeah.
Yeah, I might actually keep it.
All right, cheers.
Cheers. Oh, that's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
That's good. Ooh, yay.
Oh, yeah. I can do
exciting. That. Okay.
It's not like apple-y to you?
A little bit, but I think most Rieslings taste a little apple-ish.
Yeah? I didn't know that. I don't know.
I don't know if that's like a thing, but I feel like to me,
it's like
a lot of like the white, the white wines like this, like the cheaper wines, are apple crispy-ish.
No, this is really good.
Cool. All right, so we're going to do the This or That Fantasy Edition, right?
Yes, we're doing the Fantasy Edition in honor of our fantasy YA book, right? It's YA. It's more YA.
I think it is YA.
I feel like it's a YA fantasy. Yeah. So This or That Fantasy Edition. So I have a couple questions.
Okay.
You got to pick which one. All right. Very first. Harry Potter or Hunger Games?
Harry Potter.
I knew you were going to do that. This one is a little bit trickier for me because I absolutely love Hunger Games. But Harry Potter is just like, you can't.
Yeah.
It's a
We
love,
don't support J.K. Rowling.
No.
Bitch. But the story of Harry Potter still.
We just can't, you can't deny the story. I know. We're not going to go there.
No.
But yeah, Harry Potter for me too.
Cool.
Okay. Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Don't get me wrong, Game of Thrones, love it.
It was good,
but Lord of the Rings. Like, Lord of the Rings happened so that Game of Thrones, like they did it. Werewolves or vampires?
Werewolves.
Vampires.
I don't know. I'm always going to go for anything other than vampires. I don't know. I have a thing against them. It might be the whole Twilight thing. I don't know.
You need a Twilight marathon.
I need to get over it.
You do. Supernatural or grim?
I'm gonna go with grim.
I'm gonna go with grim too.
Yeah.
Okay. The Chronicles of Narnia or the Golden Compass?
Chronicles of Narnia, because I fucking love it.
Mm-hmm.
Never read or seen the Golden Compass.
So I've seen the Golden Compass and I really like the movie, but I've never read it. And I read some of the Chronicles of Narnia, so I'm gonna go Chronicles of Narnia. Now this is a good one because you're not gonna. I would love to know your take on this one because you don't know either one. I don't think. Twilight or True Blood?
Ugh. They're both vampires.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go with Twilight because I've only seen Twilight, never read the books, and then the other one
So I've actually read both. I haven't read the whole True Blood series, but I have it here, and I'm gonna go Twilight. Come on,
is that really rough?
Right? Is that up for discussion?
If you've seen your show.
I mention it like every other episode. Okay, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Wars.
Star Wars? Yeah. Star Wars all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This might make or break our friendship.
Oh my God.
Marvel or DC?
Really? Celeste? Yep. Really? Mm-hmm. Are you kidding me? The person who never sees DC movies. Fuck that. Mm-hmm. Marvel all the way, 100%.
I love Marvel.
Yes.
X-Men will be my favorite all-time Marvel series, show, whatever you want to do. Marvel, like, I love X-Men. I love Rogue. She's my favorite.
She was my favorite growing up.
She's my absolute favorite. This, Outlander or Pride and Prejudice? I only know one of them.
Neither. I've never read either of them. Never read either of them. Never seen the movie or the show of Outlander. Nothing. I know.
I could say that for Outlander, but Pride and Prejudice.
I own Pride and Prejudice. Have never read it.
I do not own it, but I love it.
No.
And when I'm feeling sad, I will watch Pride and Prejudice. It's really? One of my go-to movies.
Wait, does it lift you up or does it make you more sad?
No, it makes me feel all fuzzy inside. I love Pride and Prejudice.
I had always planned on reading it.
Have you seen the movie?
Never. I know.
Come on, everybody knows the carriage scene when he
holds her
hand and like.
I do not know that.
Well,
scene.
That was the last one, and that was disappointing.
Sorry.
See what I do with? She deals with my crazy antics, and I have to deal with her not knowing Pride and Prejudice. Like,
sorry.
Hi. All right, so we did our wines, we did our game. Mm-hmm. So let's get into Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's how you say it. I would hope so. Here, so you can see. Hopefully, if the video's working,
right,
you can see.
It's so pretty.
Yeah, this is the Barnes and Noble edition. Even the inside of it is like. Yeah, I know. I'm obsessed.
I don't have the book. I only have the ebook. But I'm going to get the book.
Yeah, it's really cute.
It's really pretty. I need it on my shelf over there.
Yeah. And then book 2, I think, is black. So it's like a nice little contrast.
Ooh. Yeah. I have a lot of black books.
So do I.
Yeah. We need some color. Come on, authors. Do some color. Liven it up. All right. So you have a little snippet.
Yeah. It's like a one sentence on what this book is about.
Right.
Okay. So it's about a young woman who has her heart broken, and she seeks out the help of this supposed evil Prince of Hearts. Mm-hmm. That is all.
Okay. So what I have, because I devoured this book, it was so good, and I cannot wait for the next one. So Evangeline, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because, I butcher names.
I love that fucking name.
So I butcher names here, but this was one I think I got right. So Evangeline just wants to stop the wedding of her first true love, or who she thinks is her first true love, Luke. Right?
Yeah. Luke.
Okay. Because I butcher names. I got to double check. So she seeks the help, as Jenny said, of the Prince of Heart, who is one of what they call the fates.
Yep.
Fates or fated? Fates. And it said that if you seek help from one of the fates, to always promise less than you can give, for the fates will always take more. Do not make bargains with more than one fate, and never fall in love with one. So, Evangeline, Luke is getting married to her stepsister, and she's like, what is going on? He's my one true love. She doesn't really have anyone. She lost both her parents. So now she only has her stepmother and her stepsister, and her stepmom isn't like the nicest to her. So Luke was that comfort for her when she lost all the people that she loved. So she seeks his help. And of course, the prince is going to help, but at a price.
Yes.
He says, I will help you, but in order for me to help you, you have to agree to 3 kisses.
Yeah, of my choice.
Yeah, of my choosing. He would be the one he'll randomly be like, okay, I want you to kiss this person. And she would have to do it. And knowing that there's something, this is a bargain, basically, she has to be very careful as to what she's agreeing to. So she's like, yes, I will let you choose 3 kisses, even though the only person I want to kiss is Luke. But I will allow you to do this as long as you stop his wedding without killing anyone. That was something like she made very important, because she knew that if she didn't say something like that, he can choose to do basically whatever. He can stop the wedding by killing everyone, because that's essentially stopping the wedding.
Yeah.
So she was just like, as long as you don't kill anyone.
Yeah. For some context, there are a bunch of these fates, and they're like, what I found really cool about it was that people knew about these fates because they were part of like these deck of cards.
They got trapped inside of it.
Yes, supposedly. And they're in these cards, and you know about each one of them because you can read about them on the cards. But none of them are good people. They're just bad people. You can't trust them. There's the rules, like Celeste mentioned. So you have to be careful about what you ask for and how you bargain with them.
So she wanted to make sure. She was like, please don't kill him or kill anyone to stop this wedding. So he was like, all right. So she gets these scars. No, he bites her wrist. He bites
to bind their little deal or contract.
And it's 3 broken hearts on her wrist for the 3 kisses.
Really cool.
I thought that was super cute. And it's the 3 broken hearts to show the 3 things that she has to do to fulfill their bargain. Oh,
and the kisses, because he's the Prince of Hearts, and he was known to be the fate who had his heart broken. His kisses are actually fatal.
Yep. So if he kisses you, you die.
Done.
Dun, dun, dun. So, of course, she agrees to this, and at a price, he did stop the wedding.
Yes.
By turning everyone to stone. So she's like, oh my God, what did you do? This is not what I wanted. How am I supposed to be with my one true love if he's a statue, essentially? And now all these other people are statues, the priest, her stepsister, her stepmom. She's like,
everyone in the wedding.
Yeah, she was like, this isn't what I wanted. So there was a goblet there of a poison that, in order for them to come undone from being statues, someone had to take their place. So she was just like, this is my fault. I'm going to save them, thinking that if she saved them, someone would save her. So she drinks this poison or whatever. She turns to stone, and she knows she's stoned for a long time. She just doesn't know how long, but she's in a state of just she can't feel anything, see anything, taste anything, but her mind is still there. So she knows that she's a statue, and she's just waiting, and she's like, Luke is gonna come save me. He's gonna figure it out. So,
I love that chapter, by the way,
of her just
who would think to write an entire chapter, and it wasn't long.
No,
it was a few pages, maybe, not even, of her and how she felt being stoned.
She was like, I can't feel, or
she was
knowing that her mind is there, but she couldn't feel her body.
I thought that was amazing. It was such a good chapter.
So then one day she's in her mind. She's like, oh, I'm trapped in here. I can't feel anything. But then she starts to feel like a sensation somewhere. Mm-hmm. She was like, wait, I can feel this. I can start feeling things. And then she comes to, basically. And it's the poisoner.
Yeah, like the potion master or something for the castle around there where she is or something like that. He's
the one who had the antidote for her turning into stone, and he gives it to her. And she's like looking around thinking, you know, either Luke or her stepmom or her stepsister would be around, and they're not. So she was like, how did I even get here? And he said, wasn't it like the Empress? He said it was someone.
Yeah.
But he didn't go into details as to who it was.
I don't think it was the Empress, because I think it was a whole separate thing because of all the people that were there.
Right. Like the town was there, but the people closest to her really weren't.
Yeah.
So he frees her, and she finds out that she's been stoned for about a week, and during that week it was the week of terror or week of horrors or something, where while she was stoned, all the fates had came into town, and there was a brief like war kind of thing. And then whoever was in power at the time lost their power, and now they have the new Empress who's there,
which I thought was kind of interesting because didn't they say that all these fates were like, you didn't really know where they were?
No, and they just came.
And all of a sudden,
after she turned into stone. Mm-hmm.
So that's still kind of that's a question that
I have an answer to that.
You do?
Yeah. So I don't know if we want to go further or come back to it.
We can come back to it.
Okay, just remind me. Okay. Write a note or something.
I'll write a note.
But yeah, so I have a theory as to why the fates all came out when she turned into stone. Am I right? Probably not, but it's just a theory I have.
Okay.
So
I have none, so
all the fates were free. There was a war, and then some of the fates got banished to the north because of this war. And the Empress and her, is it her like sister?
Mm-hmm.
It's the two sisters, right?
Yeah, they're sisters.
So now it's the Empress and her sister that have basically taken over power. So then Evangeline runs into her step sister and Marisol, and Marisol is just like, oh my God, we've been so worried about you. We're so happy to have you around. But Marisol doesn't look that well. She looks kind of run down and sad. And Evangeline is like, what's going on? And she kind of confides in her and says that, you know, she tried to get married to Luke again. And he wound up getting mauled by like a wolf on the way to his wedding. So now she's called the Cursed Bride.
Yeah.
Because these have been two weddings that have been called off due to like a traumatic event.
Yeah.
So now she's the Cursed Bride.
So at this point, Evangeline is kind of back and forth between, do I trust Marisol and my stepmother Agnes, or do I not? Did they do something to Luke? Did they not? So she's kind of back and forth. She doesn't trust her stepmother, but her stepsister Marisol, she's kind of back and forth. Like, there's no way she could do anything like this to me. She's too sweet. And then at other points, she's like, but wait, like when they tried to get married again, she was like, hold on.
Yeah.
Tried to get married again?
Because Luke was in love with her. They would, you know, send letters to each other. She would sneak out to meet him. And then one day he just like abruptly was like, I'm going to marry Marisol. And she was like,
and she didn't even think they even knew each other.
Yeah. So she was just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
He must be under a spell or something, because, you know, magic is something that is talked about in the book. And it's not something that's like hidden or it's kind of mysterious, but they know that there's magic.
Yeah.
So
they don't have it, but you can create magic.
Right. So she's like, he has been bewitched in some way, because there's no way he would just like up and leave me and then try to marry Marisol twice and not come to save me. So she's feeling like really hesitant on whether or not to confide in Marisol or even to talk to Agnes about it. She feels like maybe her stepmom did something to him because, you know, they don't really get along. So now she's found out that Luke has left because he wants to figure out a way to get rid of his scars from being mauled by a wolf. And also, he feels like he's cursed, and that's why they haven't been able to get married. And so he wants to make sure he can lift the curse and become his handsome self again so that him and Marisol could get married. In the same breath, Evangeline is called to the castle where the Empress is and
her sister.
And they want her to be the ambassador of their city or whatever to go to the north because there's an event called the...
It was like the night...
No.
I forgot what it was called. It was night something.
Night something, but it was something before it. It was Nocti or...
Nocturnal?
Something weird. But it's a big celebration.
Yeah.
It's a celebration where the Prince of the North is trying to find a wife. So what he does is he observes all these women that come to come marry him. And he observes them. And after each night, he'll ask 5 of them for a dance. And that's what he does every night until he finds his bride or someone he's going to propose to. So he can't officially gain his throne or become king until he has his queen.
Right.
So this is like a never-ending kind of cycle until he finds his bride-to-be. So the Empress is like, we can't go because during the week of horrors or terror, the Empress' sister, Donatella, and the Prince of Hearts got into it. And if Donatella goes to the north, it will bring war. That's all she said, was like, it will bring war. So we want you to be basically like our stand-in, and you try.
But they don't tell Evangeline this. They just say there's somebody there that if I see them, it'll cause a war.
It will cause a war. So she is like, you know what? Luke doesn't love me. He loves Marisol. I could become a princess if the prince falls in love with me. So maybe I have a second chance at true love, basically. Because really, essentially, all Evangeline wants is a fairy tale like her parents had. Her parents really loved each other. Her
mom was from the north.
Her mother was from the north. Her dad was from the south, supposedly. I feel like he was kind of like northy
I'm
too.
so interested in her dad and all his little shops.
He had a ton of different shops, and one of them was hidden even from her, and I already think I know which shop it is.
I'm so excited because I hope it's in the second book.
Yeah.
Because they don't mention it. So he owns 4.5 books. That's what she said.
Books.
And she named, or shops. She named all of them, and then she said there's one that's even a secret from her, and then we hear nothing else.
Nothing else.
And I'm so excited.
But then when she goes to the north, there's like a shop. I'm going to just jump ahead. There's a shop that's closed, and it looks like it's been closed for years.
Yeah.
So I think that's her father's, hidden shop that she didn't know about. But anyway, backtracking.
Let's go back.
So, her dad owns all these shops, and, her parents were really in love, and, would tell the fairy tale of how they met and how his dad thought she was like
an oddity.
An oddity, but something like in a well, right? Because he heard her voice in like the well and thought she was like a water spirit or something.
Something like that.
So it was love at first sound because he heard her singing or something. But it was a cute little story. And they would tell her this all the time about that's how, they met. And she was just like, I want a fairy tale story like that. I want a love at first sight kind of thing. So she's hoping that will happen with the prince. So she was like, well, Marisol kind of got a shitty end of the stick because of me. I ruined her wedding. I ruined her chances with Luke. I'm going to bring her to the north with me, and maybe she can meet someone and have a chance at love too. Or at least, get away from being named the cursed bride or the
But that's
bride
crazy.
Cursed.
She took
she brings
your
her
man.
Yeah.
She took your man. She was in love with him, and she took her.
Yeah.
Him. Like,
yep.
why are you so nice to her?
Because it's her fault that her wedding didn't happen. And she didn't know if Marisol was at fault for it. She didn't know.
But it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really.
She was in love with Luke.
Mm-hmm.
And then Marisol just went on and tried to marry him. Like, that's ridiculous.
So she was like, I'm going to bring my stepsister with me and we're going to have a grand old time and I'm going to find my one true love. That's how I think Evangeline is. She's like, la, 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 la.
And she's not dumb. Like, I felt like she wasn't a dumb character. You know, sometimes you're like these YA.
She's
like
ditzy.
I didn't think she was.
I think she kind of is. I think she's so oblivious. She wants a fairy tale so bad.
She wanted like that love that her parents had. I feel like she wasn't dumb. She just wanted that love, and she was forgetting everything else.
She was putting blinders on, basically. I can see that, but at times I feel like she's like, la, la, la,
like
la,
Snow
la.
White.
Yeah, yes. Like there's like little hummingbirds all around her. So they wound up going to the north, and that's where she saw, you know, she's looking around, and that's where she saw one of those, that shop. Particular shop. Because there's actually, in that shop, there was a book that of a story that her parents always told her, but they never got to the end, or they couldn't remember the ending, and it was The Archer and the Fox, or something.
Yeah, it was like the Ballad of the Fox, or the Ballad of the Archer,
and the
something
Fox.
like that. It was really cool because she said that her mom would tell her this story all the time, but every time she got to the end, she would always forget what it was. But that's kind of what the North was. All of the stories from the North would come to life, pretty much. When somebody told it, something different would happen.
Right. So it's almost like playing telephone too. Like some of the stories got lost in translation. So that was one of the stories. And a lot of the stories you couldn't know the ending because some of them were not cursed, but there was like a spell put on them because some of these stories had truths to them. So they were kind of hidden. At least that's what I got from it. So what that particular story, no one knows how it ends because maybe there's truth to it. Maybe there's a hidden secret within it. So to me, that was a big like for me because I'm like, what is the ending of the story? Why doesn't anyone know that?
I was like trying to figure it out. Yeah. Okay, it's a Fox. Her last name is Fox.
Yep. And then
who's the Archer?
Yes. Yeah. So that was something that I every time I heard about it, I'm just like, what the fuck is this story? So she winds up going to the north, and she goes to the very first night.
Yeah.
And this was supposed to just be like a quick gathering of him just meeting the girls, not necessarily the prince. It's supposed to be Apollo.
Yep. He's
just meeting the princesses. They're supposed to come one by one, introduce, and then the festivities kind of begin. And while she's there, she notices that the Prince of Hearts is there, Jack. And she is scared. She was like, oh my God, if he sees me, he's going to make me kiss someone. So she's like super, super nervous about it. At the same time, she meets another girl, Lala, who had like dragon scale dress and kind of was like swaying to herself. And she was kind of like, you know, off to the side. No one was really paying attention to her. And no one was paying attention to Evangeline. Right. She felt like an outcast. Every time she would try to meet up with someone or enter a group, they kind of shunned her. So she was like, oh, maybe I can become friends with this person. And then she wound up being super weird and was like, oh, I would have
super weird.
Yeah, because she came, Evangeline came with the 2 drinks to like introduce her, and she was like, hey, do you want one? She was like, are you gonna poison me? She was like, and she drank both from both. She was like, oh, one of them could have been poison and the other one could have been the antidote. That's what I would have done. I would have been
like, fine, bitch. I'll take both of them.
I was like, Jesus. But they wound up becoming friends. Yeah. And this is the time where she meets the prince too. So they go up. So she sees the Prince of Hearts, Jax, and he sees her. And I should have like thoughts. He sees her and is like,
I thought you would have been married to Luke by now.
Right.
And she was like, no, you had him mauled by a wolf. And he was like, yeah, no, I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he tells her, let's go see Apollo because he's the first one I want you to kiss.
Yep. And
so she's like freaking out. Yeah. She's like, fuck, I'm going to kill him in front of all these people. Mm-hmm. I'm going to die. So they go up there and he's like, if I really wanted to kill him, I wouldn't be going up there with you. Mm-hmm. So they walk up together and the Prince Apollo, he's kind of arrogant, taking pictures, not even really
getting his
like
portrait done,
like not even paying attention to anybody. And he turns around, talks to her. He's still a little bit rude. Mm-hmm. This, I found it a little bit brazy. So she's like this like sweet young little girl, and all of a sudden she just like runs up to him and gives him a kiss. Like she was like, oh shit, he's gonna turn around and lose interest in me. Let me just kiss him. Not knowing if he was gonna die or not, and she just went ahead and fucking kissed him.
Because Jax told her if you don't kiss him, then you die. So her heart was racing,
right.
She was just like, oh my God, if I don't do it, then I'm going to die. But like you said, she didn't know by kissing him, he was going to die. So she was like, fuck it, I'm going to take the chance.
Just going to do it.
We didn't mention the arches. And I feel like that's...
Oh, yes.
So when you enter the north, there's these huge arches of the Valors. And they were the first, like... I want to say like settlers or like people with magic and powers and things. And they created these big arches so that you enter, and in certain parts of the north, there's going to be like these like doorways with these arches. So something to mention is that every time Evangeline goes through one, she feels like she hears something and she feels like the arches are telling her something or just voices. So before she meets the prince, she had went through one of those arches and she heard it again.
Yeah.
And then she went and met him.
It was like things that I don't even remember what she would hear, but it was almost like, so glad you're finally here. Happy to see you. Things like along those lines. They
always seem excited for her to be around. Yeah. So she kisses the prince, and Jack kind of like grabs her, and he was like, okay, gotta go.
Yeah.
And he was like, don't look behind you. And she's just like, what the fuck does that mean? Of course I'm gonna look behind. And she notices that he keeps like rubbing his lips.
The prince.
The prince keeps rubbing his lips almost like in a daze kind of thing. And he keeps doing it. And she's just like, okay, what does that mean? So Jack and her runs out. And then I forget what happens after that.
So I think after they leave, he explains to her what happened to Apollo because she still didn't know what happened. So he basically became obsessed with her.
Right.
So he just wanted to be with her, and she didn't really know what to do with that.
Because when they kissed, he kind of like held on to her, and he was getting hot, and he was like
grabbed her again and like pushed her closer and
almost like in a possessive kind of way, and he didn't want to let her go. So Jack kind of like, I think, pried her off of him, and then they ran out. And, yeah.
And I think after that, it goes on to her and Marisol, Evangeline and Marisol. Like it skipped a day or whatever, and they're exploring all of the north, and eventually Sketchy, Marisol, runs off on her own, disappears. We don't know what happened to her. Then I think Evangeline finally finds her. They go back to the castle, and this is where they start to get ready for that big ball.
The big ball,
yeah. Where he's going to dance.
He's going to choose 4 or 5, girls
something
to
like
dance
that.
with.
Which he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. But not to get sidetracked, there's if you ever saw Harry Potter, you would know that Gossiper, like the chick that would like write in like gossip columns.
Yeah.
There's a man who does that in this. There's two, but they almost have like the same last name.
Maybe they're related.
Yeah, they have the same last name, different first names. And what happens is, he kind of like spreads truths and rumors all within it.
Mm-hmm.
And during one of those posts, he mentions how Marisol has been asking around about different potions to make possibly her sister turn into a statue again, and that she's been going into different parlors and different bookstores looking for spell books. And when Evangeline and Marisol go back to get changed into their dresses, the books that she sees are what she thinks are cookbooks. It's like, you know, the 1,000 spices of whatever.
Because she's a baker.
Because she's a baker. So she's like, oh, they must have it confused. You know, maybe she had went into an odd spell witchy craft bookstore thinking it was, you know, store. She saw books and thought it was like cookbooks. So she went in there accidentally. So she's like trying not to like think about it, but it's still in the very back of her mind. So they're getting ready. And so she tells Marisol, oh, I forgot my gloves. And she goes into her room to see about those books. And that's how she confirms. She was like, oh, they're just cookbooks.
Yeah.
People are crazy. They're trying to make me go crazy and make me think that, you know, my stepsister isn't who she says she is.
Because in the back of her mind, she thinks she's crazy. Yeah.
Because, again, why did Luke fall out of love with her? So that in the back of her mind, she's just not sure if her sister is someone she can really, really trust.
And she's very, like, sad, like, oh, poor me. They're still talking about me being the cursed bride. So she's making a good effort at making herself seem like the victim. So they eventually get to this ball, and Apollo chooses somebody to dance with, and Evangeline's like, well, I guess he's not interested in me, so I'm just gonna walk around, whatever. And then she turns around and he's basically on his knees proposing to her.
That I thought was hilarious.
And rushed, I was like, what the fuck?
I thought it was hilarious for the simple fact that when he first showed up, and he's walking towards what she thought was her, and then she was like, "Oh, he's gonna ask me to dance," and then he curves left, and it's another chick. He said, "I forgot who it was." And he was like, "Will you dance with me?" kind of thing.
Serendipity.
Yes, and so everyone starts chuckling and laughing at her because she's all like, she did like a little curtsy to get ready for him to like come and dance for her, but he went to someone else. So then now she's like embarrassed and she wants to leave, and then not even 2 seconds later he comes and he proposes to her. Like, excuse me, sir, you just embarrassed me in front of everybody. So I thought that was funny.
But she said yes.
She's crazy.
She definitely said yes.
Yeah.
But there's a whole plan. Like, she understands that she needs to see this guy. She knows that Jax made her kiss him for a reason.
Yeah.
So she knows she needs to kind of, like, follow through all of this. On top of that, she wants her own fairy tale love story. So she goes ahead and says yes. She ends up, I think it eventually goes to the next day. There's kind of filler stuff in between. She tells Apollo, because he runs into her room, like, freaking out, like, after sleeping for a night, right? She slept for a night. She was tired. He runs into her room and it was like, are you okay? Like, I haven't seen you.
Yeah, he starts getting super obsessed. He was saying to her outside her window every night, no matter if it was towards winter time, like they were just entering winter. So one day she stood outside her window and she was like, her face is getting frosty from just listening to him, because she said that it was penance.
Oh my God.
For kissing him. She was like, I have to suffer out here too, so I'm just gonna freeze to death as penance, as he's like singing me ballads from the fucking balcony. So then one day she tells him to like come up, and this man climbs up the tower. She was like, you could have taken the stairs. She was like, you could have taking the stairs. You're going to fall and break your neck. He was like, no. And so he climbs up the fucking tower into her room. And then that's when he was just like, oh, I'm worried about you. Mm-hmm. I need you to stay close to me. And that's why he brought her to that particular tower. I think that's what you were getting at.
He even got a tattoo of her name
with
chest.
With like swords.
Yes. I thought that fucking scene was hilarious. How he was describing it.
Yeah, because just think of someone who takes love to like the 100th percentile, like craziness.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and she didn't even give it up to him. This is
she gave him a kiss. This is from one kiss. So she was like, oh, this isn't true love. He's not really into me. It's, the Prince of Hearts is the one who did this because of that kiss. It made him obsessed with me. She was just like, when this curse or whatever is lifted or broken, he's not going to love me anymore. So she's trying to also find as much comfort with him because she doesn't want to be lonely. Yeah. So she was just like, I'm going to enjoy this for as long as I can. So that's why she brings him into her room too. Because she's like, I don't have anyone. So she was just like, let me just, entertain this for a little bit. And plus this man was freezing himself outside singing songs. So while he's there, she asked him questions about the arches and the valors. And the valors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this before Fortuna or after?
I feel like that was after. So right before that, she asks Jax to meet with her because really she wanted to break this curse. Yeah. She was like, I can't deal with this motherfucker like singing to me daily and climbing up the fucking balcony to be with me. So I need you to break this curse. He said, no, you're going to marry him first and then I'll break the curse if you really want it. Mm-hmm. But then he wants her to complete his second kiss. So he takes her to the Fortuna castle or whatever to meet with the Fortuna, whatever her name is.
Yeah, she was like a grandma-ish kind of woman whose granddaughter was one of the princesses that was trying to get Apollo's attention to get married. And here came Evangeline from the south who took it over. So the grandma's super pissed. Yeah. She was like, my granddaughter was the one who was supposed to get married to him. You took it away from her. So Jax tells Evangeline, you need to kiss her as soon as you can. I don't care if it's like her face, her hand, whatever. You need to kiss her. And this is going to help me. So she winds up kissing, when they do the introductions or whatever.
She did like a swerve. She said, let me pet your dog.
Yep. And then kissed her. She was like, oh, it's so great to meet you. And she kisses her cheek. And it changes her demeanor like immediately. Because
she went from bitch to I love you.
Yeah, to like a sweet old grandma. Like, I'm going to bake you cookies. So she was like, so she basically, I felt like would do whatever Evangeline asked of her. So Jax was like, oh, we want to go into your vaults. Can you take us? And when he asked, she was like, no. So she still held on to some of her willpower. Yeah. And she was just like, no.
She fought it hard.
She did. So then he was like, Evangeline, you gotta help me. So she was like, oh, can you show me your votes? And you could tell, like, in the story, the grandma was like, I want to say no, but I can't. So they wound up going to the vaults. That's where another form of arches were there. Yeah. Ones that were supposed to be destroyed, and they weren't. And Evangeline says that when he sees them, you could see, like, he had hope in his eyes for a brief second, and then it just, like, diminishes. So we don't really know what the prince is looking for, what he wants. We only know that his kisses are deadly. He had a broken heart, and there's only one woman who he can kiss that he won't kill, kind of thing. So
I just don't know, like, what the stones part of that is.
So they went into the vaults, and you could tell he's like looking for something, but isn't outright looking. Yeah. He's trying to be sneaky about it. So Evangelina's like, I can help you. Let me know what it is you're looking for, and I can look for it too. And he's like ignoring her. And so finally he was just like, oh, ask Grandma where her stones are. Grandma. Where
Fortuna.
Where the stones are. So but she notices that I keep calling her Grandma. She's like losing like the magic. The magic is kind of wearing off because she's like, what am I doing in here? Like she's talking to herself. So then when Evangelina's like, hey, where are your collection of stones? Can I see them? She turns around. She was like, wait, I know who you are. You're from the prophecy. You know, she would come with
rose gold crown or something.
A crown of rose gold.
Yeah.
And Evangeline, her hair is rose gold. So then Jax was like, oh, we gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And she was like, I know who you are. And she tries to kill her. Jax winds up knocking her upside her head. And that's when, before she gets knocked up upside the head, she was like, you're going to try and open up the Valor Arches?
Yeah.
Or the Arches of Valor.
Like yeah. The Valerie Arch.
The Valerie Arches. Yeah. She was like, you're going to try and open it up. I can't allow you to do that. So she tries to kill her. Jax knocks her upside her head. She falls to the ground. They run out. So when she meets up with Apollo again and he comes up the tower and that's when she starts to be like, oh, do you know the story of the arches or anything?
Because before this she had gone to the library and there was a door there and it was for the Valors, but it was locked. It was locked. She couldn't get into it, so that's why she was asking.
And the person who like, you know, probably like the librarian kind of the library there, he was just like, this hasn't been open in years. The key was lost long ago. There's no way to get in. And she tried, you know, a lot of times trying to open it. So she was like, maybe Apollo would know some more information. Yeah. So Apollo tells her about the prophecies and how there's 2 different versions of it.
Which I thought was super cool that so he tells her, one of the versions is that in order to open a door or the arch, you had to complete all the lines of the prophecy. And she only knew right now one line, which was what Fortuna had been chanting about the rose gold hair. So that's the whole Apollo and
so it's a little foreshadowing where it's like each verse of the prophecy is a piece of the key.
Yes.
And once each piece of the prophecy is, you know, brought to life, it really happens, then that's one piece of the key that is formed, basically. So if all of these events happen as the prophecy says it's going to happen, then the key is going to, you know, they're going to have a key and they're going to be able to open the arches or whatever. So throughout the book, that's basically what starts to happen. Parts of the prophecy starts coming true. First it was she would be, you know, crowned in rose gold. Then it would be the next one. Okay, so the next one is she would become peasant to princess.
Which she did.
Which she did because Apollo and her get married. And on their wedding night, the whole day she was like, he's gonna kiss me and the spell is gonna break and he's gonna hate me, he's not gonna love me anymore. And here is Apollo, he's like, oh, it's gonna be, you know, our first night together. So he was like, I can't wait. So she's trying to like prolong having to go into the bed chambers, you know, because you know what happens. So he was like, so she's trying to prolong it. So she was like, damn. So she tries looking for Jax to see, you know, why hasn't he lifted the curse yet? So then she can't find him. So she finally goes and she meets up with Apollo. And this man is oiled up on bed.
He is. He does
waiting for her. I guess they say he had only one thing covering him.
Yeah. Oh wait, though she did see Jax.
Oh, she did?
Because he did give her some of his blood to break the curse.
Oh yeah.
He said, now that you're married, whatever, if you really want to do this, you can do this.
He was like, but you're gonna regret it because you're gonna break his heart, or he's not gonna like it, or something like that.
He's gonna have a broken heart forever.
He's gonna have a broken heart forever. But she felt like that would be better than him living a lie.
Yeah.
So she wanted to break the curse. So he's oiled up, ready for her in bed, and she was like, I need a drink. So she goes over to the goblet and she drinks some wine that's there. And she says it tastes bitter and nasty. And she's just like, fuck. And she was like, I'm going to take another drink because this man, again, is oiled up in bed waiting for her. And so she's like, fuck. So then she built up the courage, some liquid courage. And she's like, okay, I'm going to kiss him and it's going to break the curse. So she does kiss him. And it says like he does like a sigh of relief. But then he's like, he yells, what did you do?
Right.
And he says it so loud that his guards could hear him. And then he's like, starts seizing up. And she's like, oh my God, he's going to die, thinking it's the kiss, because the Prince of Hearts, his kisses are deadly. She's like, oh my God, he put blood on, my lips.
She basically feels like he tricked her.
So Apollo starts seizing up and he basically dies. And she's like, help, help, help. The guards come in. They automatically think it's her because, he yelled at her prior to falling to the ground saying, what did you do? So now she is... So the first part of the prophecy was she would be covered in rose gold. The second was she would go from peasant to princess. And then the third part of the prophecy was something about she would be wrongly accused. And what she is wrongly accused of is murdering Apollo. At first she thinks he died. And at first she really thought it was him, but then the more she thought about it, she was like, no, like the clues that aren't adding up and what happened wasn't adding up. So now she's, she had to run away from the castle and Jack helps her. So they go to Lala's house to help. And they're trying to figure out who is the person who wants Apollo dead. So Jax is like, well, there's one person we can go to. He's like the vampire king or something.
Chaos.
I
love that name.
Yeah, he was like, we have to go see Chaos because he would know. Because
so Lala, she knows what happened to the prince because she knows that he died because it was her tears.
Because after Apollo dies, she's crying so much that it's not like normal cries.
Right.
Like she won't stop crying. Like, okay, Apollo died, but it was like hysterical.
There's like a whole scene on that.
Yeah, like a whole freaking page of her just talking about how much she's crying. So they know
that it's Lala who is the unwed bride or something like that. I think that's what it's called, unwed.
Yeah, it was something where no matter who she falls in love with or who falls in love with her, she would never get married.
Yeah.
Something will happen where it will never end in marriage or a happily ever after.
Yeah. So she says, yes, it was her
tears
who poisoned him, but it really wasn't because she didn't do that to him.
No, she sold her tears.
Must have bought her tears.
Yeah.
And the only other person who has her tears is Chaos.
So they were like, okay, we have to go, but Chaos is a vampire, and in his lair there's other vampires. So Jax was like, don't look him in the eye, don't touch anything, like
don't give him permission to bite you, basically.
Like don't touch him, don't look at him, whatever. He's gonna try and seduce you, try and your best. And not even 2 seconds from meeting this man, she was like it's like,
bite me.
He literally told you, like, don't.
Okay, so maybe she is a little dumb. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, she is.
She was like, oh, but he's so alluring and all this other stuff. And like Jax basically was like turned her around, was like, hello. And screaming in her brain too, like, don't look at him. And she's like, huh? And looks at him. I
can just imagine that.
Evangeline just gets me mad sometimes. So Chaos is like, I don't know who bought the tears.
But somebody did.
Right, but
from
someone did. From
potions person.
Yeah, but he's like, I don't know who it is. So while they're there, they're like near like a balcony or something. And there's humans there and they're being bitten and put in cages. And what's happening is it's like a new like group of vampires being made.
Like new assassins or something like that.
Yeah, because he was assassin and he has like a group of assassins and things. So he was just like, you guys should stick around and see like my new vampires or whatever. And Jack was like, no, we're not. Because she's going to get bit and then I'm going to be fucking screwed and I need her to help me open up these arches. So, they're trying to run out, and lo and behold, who do they run into?
Fucking Luke!
What the fuck?
Her first love.
He's chained up in the ceiling, and he's like, Evangeline, save me.
Help me.
He was like, Marisol was the one who...
That's so good.
Marisol was the one who, like, bewitched me, and I love you, and please save me. I won't bite you. And she was like, okay, Luke, I'll save you. So what is
Meanwhile, Jax is like, hello.
No.
Like, don't, let's go. He's already been bitten. And she knows this.
So, because he looks so much better. He doesn't have any of the markings of when he was attacked by a wolf. So he was like, look, I look better. He was just like, as soon as he was told that only vampire venom would save him and help him, and it did. It essentially lifted whatever curse was on him or spell. He was like, I know it was Marisol. She was the one who did it. He was like, I always loved you. I promise I won't bite you. Just, throw this dagger next to me and I'll do it myself and you can go. So she does, even though Jax told her not to, but she still did it. And not even 2 seconds, he has the fucking cage open and he lunges to bite her. Yeah. And of course, Jax has to save her. Fucking Luke bites Jack. And now Jack is turning into a vampire. So now she has to save him. It's a hot mess.
Idiot.
But before, he like cracked Luke's neck for biting him.
Oh, I know. I was like, this is a YA book.
But he said that it didn't kill him because in order to kill a vampire, you have to behead them or stab him in the heart.
But he snapped his neck.
And so that they're able to run away.
Yes.
And then she's noticed that Jack's hair is turning back to his usual silver because for some reason he kept dyeing it blue. And he's looking more and more attractive. And he's like kind of sluggish and like getting more warm.
Yeah.
And she was like, usually he's cold, so he's like changing. And she was like, what's going on? And he was like, I got bit. What do you think is happening? So he's turning into a vampire. So she knew something about like, in order to stop it, he had to stay away from the sun overnight.
Yeah.
So they wound up...
And then he would be cured.
Yeah. So they wound up going into like a tomb mausoleum.
Yeah, as long as he didn't like bite anyone, didn't do anything, just
within that night.
Yes.
So as long as he doesn't bite or consume blood within that night before dawn, then he can be cured and he won't turn into a vampire. So basically, she tries to cage him in, and in order to distract him, she's like, oh, I heard a story or a rumor about you and Donatella. Let me know what happened. Why is it you guys don't get along? And he basically tells her that he kissed her and his heart started beating again because he had no beating heart. That's why he was the Prince of Broken Hearts or whatever. So... because of that, now he has a beating heart, and Donatella was upset that he even kissed her, and that's why they don't get along and they don't like each other.
Yeah, because like his whole thing is his curse is he's only got one true
True
love.
love.
So if that one kiss happens, his curse is broken.
Mm-hmm.
So he was trying to find that one true love. But in her, he was actually trying to kill her. He was trying to kill Donatella. And then she found out what he was trying to do. Even though he was like, oh shit, my heart is beating now. She was like, but wait, you tried to kill me. So no, this isn't going to work.
Yeah. So even though the rumor, his prophecy is basically like, your true love is the person who you can kiss and your heart starts beating again. Yeah. And he's like, well, I kissed her. She didn't die and my heart is beating. So is that my true love? He was like, it can't be. And then because of, the vampire venom and stuff, he breaks out of the cage and it kind of gets steamy between those two. But then eventually, but eventually, they break apart and nothing happens. And essentially she saves him.
Yeah, she does. So he's still pretty sluggish and he's worn out from the entire night. So she walks him to the village or whatever.
Yeah, because he's like literally falling asleep on his feet. So she's like, I have to get you somewhere. We have to get somewhere away from people because now there's pamphlets everywhere saying that she's a murderer. Because at first the newspapers were saying, oh, she's missing. Yeah. Help us. The prince's brother is looking for her. Because, Apollo died and then she went missing. So please help her. And then now they're claiming she's a murderer. And she's like, wait, I didn't murder anyone. So, trying to stay, out of the limelight. So she's trying to find where Lala lived, bring him back, but she can't find her house.
Right.
And then there's like a bell ringing to like a particular like door or building. And so she goes in with him and he falls asleep on the couch. And there is where she finds like the books again.
Yep. The books from like the stories when she was younger, like multiple copies. And then she goes to a desk and then she sees that there's a letter from her and she realizes that it's to Jack's. And then she looks at everything else and realizes that that's Jack's house.
Yeah.
So there's like a whole like story behind those bells that Celeste just mentioned. Throughout the whole story. So it was more like the bells were kind of calling to them.
Right.
And it was calling to him because it felt Jack's nearby. So she knew that that's where she had to go.
Right.
So this is kind of where she sees a spell book and she learns that she can make a spell. She sees one of those like little newsletter things that says, now the prince's brother, Tiberius, is marrying Marisol. Yes. Da, da, da. So she's like, holy shit, she's lied to me this entire time. So I need to make sure that she didn't put a spell on Tiberius, a love spell. So she's like looking through all these spell books and she wants to make an antidote to a love spell, thinking that Tiberius is cursed. And the side effect to those love spells is like a truth serum.
Yes.
Right? So she makes this love spell and not Apollo, Jax is still sleeping. So she's like, I guess I'm going to go then by myself. So she heads off to this castle, goes to find Tiberius's room, and she puts the potion or whatever into
a vial kind of thing,
like the Fortuna's water or something.
Yes, because I feel like the jars are like spellbound. So when you see the jar, you get really curious, and then it makes you want to drink it.
Yeah, it like calls to you.
So she made sure to put the truth serum or like the spell, like
it was like the antidote to a love spell.
Right. It was supposed to be the antidote to the love spell, but if you make it too strong, it can make you tell the truth and you can't tell lies.
Right.
So she put the vial in his bedroom and she was like, okay, I have to stick around somewhere close to make sure he's the one who takes it. And then because she knows like Marisol isn't the person she says she is.
Yeah.
So, of course, she puts it in the room. On her way out, who does she run into?
Her bitch-ass cousin.
Sister.
Whatever.
So she runs into Marisol, and Marisol's like, "Oh my God, Evangeline!"
I love how you do that.
She was like, "Evangeline, come into my room," which really was Evangeline's room.
Yeah,
prior.
she just moves right in.
She moved right in.
Yeah.
So she was like, "Oh, come into here. You know, the guards are looking for you." She was like, "I'm so sorry this is happening to you. I can't believe it." And they kind of have like this heart-to-heart moment where Marisol kind of opens up to her about Luke and actually, you know, being jealous of Evangeline and you know, being jealous of Luke being in love with her and how she tricked him into falling in love with her and did put a spell on him, but she didn't think it would be like that strong. And she thought she was the reason why her wedding went the way it was. And then that's when Evangeline thinks it's a good idea to open up and be like, "Oh, no, it wasn't your fault. It was actually my fault because I spoke to the Prince of Hearts and, you know, set up this bargain with him. And this is what happened." And this bitch Marisol switched up on her so fast. Yeah. It was like, "It's your fault. I called the cursed bride and all this shit was happening to me." She was like, "Guards!"
Yep. She called them. They came right in and they grabbed her. And then Tiberius showed up. And she felt like the way... Because Marisol told Evangeline that she didn't give Tiberius a love potion.
No.
She was like, "No, I didn't. That's it." So Evangeline was like, "Okay, so I believe you." But when he came in, he was like, "Are you okay, my love?" Blah, blah, blah. So she was like, "Wait, no, he definitely looks like he's under a spell.
Yeah.
But then he's like, "Put her in my rooms." And Marisol's like, "But don't you want her in the dungeon?" Yeah. And he was like, "No, I want her in my room." So they bring her to the room, and this is kind of where he ties her up, first of all, and he ends up looking at the potion, and he's like, "Oh, I hate this shit." And he was about to throw it in the fireplace.
And then he starts drinking it.
Because it called to him.
Yeah, it called to him.
Right? So he drank it, and she feels like it's not working, but then the whole side effect thing.
Yeah.
Because the love potion or whatever didn't work, or she couldn't tell if it didn't work. So it turned into a truth serum. So that's when the guards came in. She convinced him not to kill her.
Right.
She was like, "Your brother wouldn't want this. Don't kill me. Have someone else do it."
Yeah.
Right? So the guards came in, and he was like, "You need to kill her," or whatever. And
she's the one who tried to kill, but he could never finish the sentence of, you know, saying, "Oh, she's the one who killed my brother," because he knew that was a lie.
Right.
And because of the truth serum, he couldn't tell a lie.
Yeah, because she was like, "You need to say what my crimes are before they
tell
kill
me what my crimes
they're
are."
Actual guards. Like, they're not just going to kill me.
Right. So he couldn't, and then finally he's so distraught, and he confesses to being the one who actually killed who killed his brother, but he didn't want to kill his brother. He was trying to kill Evangeline because he heard that the potion that he had was only deadly to, you know, females. So he was just like, you know, you were supposed to drink it. It wasn't supposed to, you know, have any effect on my brother. I don't understand. So the guards wind up taking Tiberius away and then unchain Evangeline. And they're like, you know, apologizing to her. And technically, Evangeline was married to Apollo, who was king. So now she's a princess, or basically a queen. So Tiberius is taken away. We don't know what happened to Marisol.
No, it didn't really say.
So now the king's guards and things are the ones who are like protecting her, and she's like, she's wondering where Jack is, because
he never came
to see her. She was like, "Is he still sleeping?" So she was on her way to go and check on him when the king's guard, especially the king guard of Apollo, like his main guard, was like, "Oh, there's a man here to see you. Can you please come follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, oh, okay, I'll meet him. And she's thinking is Jax. In my opinion, I think she thought it was Jax that was waiting for her.
Because then eventually he went through the little mind.
Her mind thing. He was like, wait for me or something. And she was like, oh, I'll meet up with you. And he was like, no, wait for me. And she was, but to herself, she was like, oh, I'm just gonna, meet up with him. So she's following the King's Guard, and they were supposed to go into the sitting room of where, you call on people to meet or whatever. And she's been through the castle before, and she was like, we're going somewhere different. And the King's Guard is like, oh, we're taking a detour. And she felt like it was kind of sketchy, and she was like, I don't know if I want to follow you. And they're like, no, please follow us. And she's noticing that the voice to Jack is kind of fading away. And so she's like, okay, this is kind of weird. And they're like, they mentioned that Apollo is still alive.
Yeah.
And she was like, wait, I saw him die. And they're like, no, he's still alive. Follow us. It was the King's Guard and a woman.
It was a woman that they had called upon before all of this happened and after Apollo died. Mm-hmm. So they went to this little trap door somewhere in the castle and down into some kind of dungeon area. And she sees Apollo's body. So he's still alive. He's unconscious. He's not waking up. But
he's in a state of in-between or something like that, where if he doesn't wake up, he'll stay like this forever, never aging, and just his heart rate is super, super low, and they don't understand how he's still alive. And the only reason why they know he's alive was because the woman that was there, she's the keeper of secrets when you die. So whenever you die, there's always a secret left behind. So they were going to use her to see how he died or who killed him.
Yeah. And
when she showed up, he had no secrets. And she was like, everyone has secrets. So she was like, he must still be alive. And that's how they found out he was still alive. Mm-hmm. So during this moment, while she's looking at Apollo's, in-between body or whatever state, she's putting all these pieces together that make Jack super suspicious, especially when it comes to the prophecy. Yeah. She's like, did he manipulate so many other people just for her to reach this moment? Mm-hmm. Because the prophecy has been happening each step of the way. First, she would be covered in rose gold. That's happened. She has rose gold hair. She will be a peasant to princess. Mm-hmm. She wound up being poor, became a princess, and now basically a queen, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The next one was that she would be wrongfully accused. She was wrongfully accused of murder. That happened.
Yeah.
The very last part of the prophecy was that she would willingly give up blood or something like that. So she's looking at Apollo, and she believes, I'm assuming, that she can wake him up with her blood.
With Jax.
With Jax.
Jax would be the only one to know how to wake him up. Mm-hmm. Because all of the pieces that she put together were all kind of connected to Jax. So she was like, he would be the only one that would be able to wake him up. He's the one who caused all of this. Mm-hmm. Of course, the asshole that he is, he knew that she would want to save him by giving up her blood to open one of the Valerie arches.
Yeah. And so she's like, well, I'm not going to give into that. I'm going to find my own way of saving Apollo, because just now I was able to make a potion. She's like, I don't need him to help me. I can get into the Valor's room, that door, because she's been able to open up doors and had this gift of opening doors. So she was like, I know how I can get into that room. And it kind of leaves us on that cliffhanger. And the very last chapter is basically saying that the door that hasn't been open in years slowly creaks open, and that the wolf like monogram smiles or something, and that's how it ends. So is it her? Is it her that goes into the into that room?
Right.
We could only assume yes, right? Because she thought
so.
She was the one who thought about it, and she was like, I know how to open that fucking door.
Right. She's been able to open any door.
Any door. Anytime she's given blood and asked them to open, it's done it. But isn't that willingly giving blood?
It is, but that's not the arch. That's the door in the library for the Valors.
So going back to why I think the Fates were able to
like they
come
disappeared
out
and came out
and then came back. One, maybe her turning into stone suppressed her door opening capabilities. Okay. Maybe because of her hidden powers that because she obviously has powers. We
don't know what it is.
Maybe it suppressed that kind of like lock that she had by turning into stone, and then that was that freeing moment where they were able to get out. Because Jax, it was a weird situation where Jack had asked her, how did you get in? Did you have a key? And she said no.
So in the very beginning, when she went to go see him,
she was like, no, I just asked for it to open. She said, I said please or something like that. He was like, So after they made that bet, he kind of like walked out.
Right.
And I think he was trapped in there that whole time. And she opened that kind of gateway. So her opening up that door probably opened everyone else's, because they said that he was a tattered mess when she first walked in.
Yeah, he was talking to himself and laughing.
He was talking to himself.
He was going mad in there.
So he was trapped in there essentially. And then here she walks in, she was like, oh, here's this crazy dude just in the corner fucking cutting him, like scratching at himself.
That's why, like, when I first started reading this book, I was like, oh, this is very Cinderella-like. And then I was like, this is super Alice in Wonderland type book. So he was going crazy, and then she was like, oh, asking, the prince for help. And then all of a sudden he's like, fine. Yeah.
And then he was like, and then after he was like, wait, how did you even get in here? And then he was like, And then he just walked out the door. So either, her opening his door opened everyone else's door. Or her powers were suppressed while she was in stone, and that was how everybody got out. So
interesting.
Hopefully in book 2 we find out.
I know. You read the ebook, right?
Yeah, I read the ebook.
Okay, so I'm going to need you to look at the epilogue. Not to read it, just to look at it, and I'll talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
But I just want you to look at it. You could open it.
Yeah, because the ebook didn't have it.
I'm sure it didn't, because that's a Barnes & Noble exclusive. So, in the epilogue, it takes you back 100 years. Back,
okay.
Yes, and it doesn't really spoil anything. It just talks about how there's a tavern. Yeah, right? So there's a lot of blocked out letters and words.
So if you see it
in it, which is super interesting. I've never seen that in a book before. There's a lot of blocked out sentences.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it basically talks about this tavern where the owner of the tavern and a map maker get into this little fight. So from then on, after those 100 years, the map maker left the tavern out of all the maps. So every time they created a new map, Bigger Worlds, they left that tavern out of there. So eventually that tavern became known as the Tavern Always Pulled from Maps, which I thought was kind of cute.
The Tavern
Always Pulled from Maps, yeah. So there's a bell inside this tavern, a copper bell, that keeps the secrets told in the tavern. And a part of that epilogue is that Apollo and someone else, and I assume it's Apollo because the bell is saying the person was eating an apple. And in the whole story, Apollo is the one eating an apple.
You mean Jack?
Jax. Whoops. Jax is the one eating an apple.
Right.
So I assume it's Jax talking to someone, and he says something like, I don't want you to turn her into a vampire. After that's done, I don't care if you spill her blood or bathe in it until then, and then it blacks out. So that is the epilogue for Barnes & Noble. I know.
Interesting.
It's hard to read because a lot of it is blacked out.
Yeah.
I can't. Oh, you really that's like the most important part that I got out of it. That Jax is talking to somebody,
someone, but you don't know who he's talking to or who he's specifically talking about.
Yeah, and the bell says that it's he sounds like he's eating an apple or a potato, so you know it's an apple.
It's an apple. Yeah.
Jax eats apples throughout the whole book.
I can't wait for book 2.
It's coming out like soon.
Wow. But this was a really good book. Like, I devoured it. I loved the characters. I loved, like, thinking I knew what was happening, but really didn't know what was happening. Like, I want to believe the prince. I want to believe he's a good person. And I think she's wrong in her assumptions about him. I think there might be truths to maybe he was manipulating her in some kind of way to get her to this point, but I don't think it was because of ill intentions. I think overall what he's trying to do is for the betterment of everyone, but he's going about it wrong. Yeah,
I don't know if it's for the better of everyone.
For him.
But I fucking love him.
I do like him a lot.
He is my favorite character.
Yeah, I really liked how, like, I don't know, like, shitty he is.
Yeah. Well, he's pretty much the only one that's like that, other than Tiberius. But I felt like, honestly, like, the rest of the characters I didn't really connect with. They were just characters. The Prince of Hearts, Jax, I did.
Yeah, I really liked him. This was definitely a good read. Yeah. I really liked it. I hope you guys dive into it.
Yeah.
Tell us your theories. What do you think will happen in book 2? What questions do you have that you want answered? Because I don't know. I really don't know. This is a good book where it left me, like, really not really know what was going on.
Yeah.
Which I like. Yeah. I like the suspense of it. I like the not knowing. It's not something that you can you
can't predict it.
You can't predict it. So
there was no predicting it. It was super magical. The world building was freaking amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It was really
I can't wait for book 2. Yay!
All right, so that was episode 2 of season 2. We hope you enjoyed our craziness of how we explained this book, what we thought about it.
I hope it was organized enough.
We're not organized, let's be real. We go crazy. But we really love this book. Yeah. We hope you dive into it, get book 2 when you can, read it when you can, because we're definitely gonna get it.
We're definitely gonna read it. Yeah.
But yeah, this was a fun little episode. Yeah.
Can't wait to hear what you all think. All right.
Again, like and subscribe to our YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and keep looking out for our episodes.
Bye.